Now, Lane, you saw in the last video how to link up buttons with the code through this process of creating connections. And there's actually a simpler way to make those connections. In the last way you saw, we had to go ahead and type the method quite explicitly, and then within the nib file, right-click and drag the dot and stuff like that. But there's a quick way to make connections, and that's by using one of those special keys, like the Command key or the Apple key or Alt or something. They're on your keyboard. So, and holding that down, you can, if you have the Assistant editor open, you can click on a button, like say this touch button, and then you can press that on the keyboard, the Command or the Alt button, one of those, and then drag that button in a way. You're not dragging the button, but you're dragging sort of a connection over to the code, and Xcode will create that property for you, or create that action for you, and generate all kinds of code for you to make it easy. So I want to show you that next, and we call that quick connections. So I'll start fresh. So we'll be making a very similar project as last, but I'll start fresh here, and we'll make connections much faster. So File, New Project. We'll choose Single View Application again. We'll call it Quick Connections. iPhone, don't use storyboard, and yes, use automatic reference counting. So we'll go back to the nib file and start to drag on some user interface elements. So we have a text input, put in a label, got the big label, put in a button. We'll start to fill in now this student, and then we will change that attributes inspector. Let's say system bold. We'll actually delete out the contents there. And let's call this now learn. We'll go ahead and run that. We'll take a look. Oh, actually, in fact, we want this to be bigger. I'll go ahead and stretch that out so it's bigger. Okay, yeah, so it's getting there. We have our, this is what it looked like just before I stretched out the text field. So we have our user interface elements, but again, it's not, the user interface elements are not connected to the code. This is just that starting point based on the template of a single view application. So I'll make some more space here. Close down the left and right panels. And I'll open up the assistant editor. And you see what happens when we open up the assistant editor. We have on the left the nib file, and on the right the code. And we can in fact flip between the header and the implementation file. This is the implementation file .m, and the header, the .h file, right there using the jump bar. And that makes it easy for us to navigate around. So the way we'll be doing our quick connections between these buttons and the code, it's the terminology for that is outlets and actions. So this pressing a button, that's an action. User is taking an action. This label right here, we're going to actually be outputting text. Call that an outlet. And that also corresponds to that term property outlet. And our text field right here, that's considered to be an outlet. So let's do that same button connection to the code, but this time using quick connections. So what we do is, oops, trying to figure out, got it, okay. So for me, I'm holding down Control. I have kind of a strange keyboard, it might be different on your machine. But I'm holding down Control, so I selected the button, that's the user interface element that I want to be connecting to the code. I press that Learn button, and I hold down Control, and then with my mouse, I can click the button and then drag this line over to the code. Isn't that cool? And then you see it saying Insert Outlet Action or Outlet Connection Collection. Let go. And now we have this kind of wizard. And this is, in fact, an action. It's not an outlet. The buttons are actions. And we'll just call it Learn. Type ID is fine. Touch up inside. That's the event. Touch up inside. And connect. Look at that. So Xcode generated for us the header file. And what's really cool is it automatically created the implementation there too. So it'll run right now. So actually, let's just try to run it. It should be running, should be willing to run. So we're not getting any errors here yet. We're starting up our simulator. Okay, we press that. Yeah. Okay. So there's no errors. Now we don't have it doing anything yet, but it is this method is linked up now to the button. Let me prove that to you. So let's go to the implementation for that new method, the learn method, and let's do an nslog. And we'll have it say learn iPhone programming. Okay, and we'll run this. There. Okay, so this is our app. Pressed it. Yeah, there it is, right on the console. Learn iPhone programming. So this button is now connected to the code. It's activating the method. I'll just show you. Every time I push it, it's going to print it out. Boom. I just pushed it. Pushed it. Learn it, learn it, learn it. Go, 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 go. So every time I push the button learn, it's printing out the NS log. So in other words, it's activating that method, that custom method that we made. So that's neat. Let's link up our other user interface elements. So we pull back the header file. We'll just close that down, make some more space. And what we'll do is we'll select the input text field, hold down the control on my end. It might be Apple command for you, but for me it's control. And then drag in now the text field to that .h file. And this one is going to be an outlet. So we'll just call it my text field. And what type is it? It's a UI text field. It guessed correctly. Connect. Now just scan this, make sure it looks okay. Looks fine. It's a UI text field pointer called my text field. It's fine. It's weak, non-atomic. It's an IB outlet. Now notice here as well, we're seeing a connection. We're seeing a connection with this learn button and this learn method. And now for the outlet, that's a property. So that's kind of a chunk of data. And we'll take a look at that one. So that's connected there to the nib file text field. That's right there. So it's even lighting up for us. Whereas here, it's lighting up that button. And finally, we'll do a quick connection with the label. So this is kind of an invisible label, so maybe you forgot it was there. And if you did forget, what you can do is open up that sort of drawer over there on the left, so that it's different from the left navigation panel. So that's not the file navigation browser. This is like a object hierarchy for this specific nib. When you open up that inspector, or it's not really inspector, but it's sort of an object navigation panel. And so I'll just make some more room here. But when we look at this object navigation panel, we see a list of elements. So the student label, the text field, this label that's empty, and then the learn button. So that can remind you about what elements you've already put there on the nib file. And it can also help you sort of select stuff, like maybe it's hard to select it when things are overlapping. And furthermore, you can also use this jump bar. So on this view, there's a hierarchy of elements, so you can jump, say, to the text field. But we're interested here in that label. So again, we'll just select it by using this objects navigation panel. And so now it's selected. I hold down that control key, might be a command for you, connect it over here. So this we're going to call outcome display connect. So this is our method, and then this is our data. Data, methods. And by making these quick connections, we now have access to the information going on here from the user. So, so what do we want to do with this? What we want to do is when we put a student's name, like say Lane, into the student input text field, we want to display text here utilizing that information. So what we do is we can go back to the implementation, So again, our method here is learn, and that's going to be activated when we press that learn button, okay? And within learn method is when we can do things. So this is when we want to basically grab the text in this text field, modify things around, and then display in this label, you know, this modified text. So so let's first um, let's make a little more space so it'll be kind of easier to see there. Okay. So we're going to first pull out the text within the text field, okay? So it's going to be an NS string, and we'll just call it student name. And that's going to be equal to the what is the name? Okay, it's called my text field. So that's the name of the UI text field. So it'll be self.myTextField.text. That's going to pull out the name. And now we want to display a message. And that will be a NS string as well. NS string message. And the message will be, let's go ahead and allocate a new string. String alloc init with format. And the message will be the student name is learns iPhone programming from Greg. And the student name text or a string takes that place of this little placeholder. The %@ is the placeholder. So the student name learns iPhone programming from Greg. Now let's just do a little sanity check to make sure that everything is working fine. So we'll just nslog that message value. So we'll just say %@ message, and it's going to print to the console the message, and we're going to check that it's correct at this stage, and then we'll do something with it once we check that it's correct at this stage. So stop the simulator. We're going to run it. It's just compiling the new application, the quick connection. Here we input student, so that's Lane. Learn. There we go. Lane learns iPhone programming from Greg. So it was able to take Lane from the text field, input it into that message. And we'll just say your sister's name, Jelly. Jelly learns iPhone programming from Greg, because of course Jelly could be watching this video. let's say Belly. Belly learns iPhone programming from Greg there. So it's working. I'll go ahead and comment that out, and I'll, in fact, also just go ahead and comment that in this log out. Now let's display our message onto the user interface, because if the user was using this, they would put in lane, press learn, it would seem like nothing happened because they don't have access to the console like we do. So let's display that on the label. How we do that is by trying to remember the name of the label. So that label name is outcome display, okay? And then we're going to set the text there. So the way we do that is we say self, because it's a property there of the self, and it's outcome display text equals, and then our message. Let's run that. There. We tap on the text field, automatically opens up the keyboard, and we'll put lane, learn. Lane learns iPhone programming. It got it. But you notice it's not wrapping the text. So we need to go to our nib, select onto that label. So we can also select on it from the panel here. I'll go ahead and turn it just to the full editor, and we'll open up that right panel for the attributes inspector. And we've got to change lines to 0 so that it'll wrap so we can see the full text. Now let's run it again. Okay, let's try Lane, learn. Lane learns iPhone programming from Greg. Perfect. Let's try Jelly. Jelly. Jelly learns iPhone programming from Greg. Belly. Belly learns iPhone programming from Greg. Learn. Perfect, we got it. So now you know how to make quick connections from user interface elements in your nib file to the code in your custom class, where you can perform operations such as pulling down the contents of those user interface elements, like this text input, the text input object, and then creating a custom string, say, and then displaying it there on this UI label, and putting it all into the user's control through this learn button, and do it much faster by using quick connections rather than sort of the slower way of connections. All right, I think that wraps up this particular video.